Leroy, what's going on, my man?
What's happening, Zach? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. Appreciate you joining us. So, first and foremost, take me through your feelings right now with this Michigan football team being a famous former Michigan football player. Now they're 60 minutes away from winning a national championship.
I was floored and amazed at how well that defense got after that offense. It was something, and I promise you, there's nobody that thought that defensive front six would get after Alabama's big offensive line the way they did. It was unbelievable to watch. I was floored at, I don't know whether it was a great game plan or a poor game plan by Alabama, because they basically did the same stuff. They brought Ford to the strong side, walked the safety down weak, and nobody blocked the safety all game. So I don't know if they were matching that up to Alabama's offense and Alabama couldn't adjust to it, or Alabama just never adjusted to it the whole game. And it was amazing. They ran a lot of games up front. Alabama's big offensive line looked like they were lost. And so that portion of the game was incredible. Now, as much as Michigan dominated that game, the fact that Alabama took the lead, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Special teams almost cost Michigan.
Right. And so that's one of the things I've always said about Alabama. I don't care how bad they look, man. They're always in the game. Always. They don't get blown out. So it was a little bit sketchy at the end there. I was,
nice way of putting it.
I didn't know whether to hit the bottle or take a walk. I didn't know what to do, and because it's, for me, being a fan is 10 times worse than being a player. This is, I don't know how fans do it. I mean, just sitting there watching, there's nothing you can do but yell at the TV. Oh my goodness, I almost lost my mind.
My favorite text that I got from you during the game, you text me right as they go to overtime, and you just said, "This bleep is killing me."
Yes, it's killing me. It's killing me. I didn't like the excitement, the up and down, the and then going into overtime. And I don't know what in the world that last play was, but I promise you this. Michigan got after Melrose so much, he never looked downfield, right? Because even if that was supposed to be a draw, the quarterback drops back and acts like he's going to pass. Milroe didn't even do that. So that time that shrunk on him affected him with everything that he did.
Absolutely.
In the second half. Right?
And also you could even see it on some of his runs too. Like he would have some big runs and then he would just like fall down because of maybe what he was thinking about what happened early in the game. But I will say this, Leroy Hoard, I was watching the final play once again earlier this morning, and I was slowing it down. We know there was a bad snap. We talked about Josiah Stewart just pushing the right tackle completely into Milroe, and I do think that Milroe panicked once the snap was low, and he went to what he does best, and that's let's just bulldoze people and run. But a lot of people are saying maybe he should have passed the ball to his left. You talked about it earlier, the way that the secondary just came up and quickly got to the quarterback. I don't think Mikey Sanistrills get enough credit because he was right in that backfield right away, and I think he took away Milroe's vision of even potentially making that pass with how quickly he came off the edge.
Right. I just think during the course of that game, the thing I noticed about Milroe was his attention went from secondary to linebackers to rush. And once it got on rush, that means that if he didn't have that much time, you didn't have to worry about him throwing it down the field. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it got. And so when he had that bad snap, and it happens to a lot of quarterbacks, but they relax, they calmly take it back. I got time, and then I make a play. He panicked because of, if there hadn't been that pressure earlier in the game, I think he would have taken his time. But knowing that pressure has been on him so quickly, that's what forced the panic. So this was a game-long process that ended up making that last play look the way it did.
And really an all-season process, because a lot of people that cover Alabama, they've been talking about the center problems all throughout the years, and even going back to that game up against Auburn, too. You kind of saw it pop up with the bad snap. Talking to Leroy Hoard right now. I was also surprised, and we'll get back to Michigan in just a second, but since we're talking about the ending of that game, Milroe gets 15 on the ground to set it up, 1st and goal at the 9. And the next 2 plays, they give the ball to their running back, who was having a solid game, but clearly the best thing for Alabama all throughout that game was their quarterback running. I was shocked that they didn't run the ball with Milroe, 1st and goal at the 9 after getting 15 with them on either 1st or 2nd down.
I would have done maybe an RPO or something along those lines to give him an option. But I think one of the reasons why we saw that offense look the way it did was how they felt about the quarterback, right? Like, if you're comfortable with a guy, you'll do stuff like that. If you're not, you just call a play and go with it. Now, with all the twisting that Michigan was doing, right? Because they're smaller than that big offensive line.
Yeah.
So you got to get angles, you got to move around a lot. I was worried that they might get gashed. But the offensive line never, ever got any push on that D-line. Never. And so from that standpoint, that's why it looks so cluttered up, is because usually when you see a Alabama offensive line, they're going downhill and they're pushing guys off the ball. You didn't see that with Michigan. And they aren't as big, which was kind of baffling, right? You got a group of guys who are, I want to say Alabama had 2 linemen who were over 340, right? I don't know whether they were tired.
But they made more than I think they said a bunch of offensive NFL lines, that offensive line for Alabama. They said that on the broadcast, yeah.
And so why wouldn't they just run a play where them guys just are big and just go straight downhill? I don't know.
You know what it is? Sometimes I think coaches, and I know Saban's a legend, but sometimes coaches get too cute in the big game. It was almost as if in the first half, because when Alabama took over the game, it was in the 3rd quarter. But in the first half, I think they were trying to win by making Milroe do more than what he was asked to do for most of the season, because they threw the ball, it felt like, more in the first half than I thought they were going to.
Well, yeah, and here's the deal. It didn't cost them. So even with that game plan, they were never out of the game. And usually with coaches, if you're still in the game, there's no need to panic and change. Now, coming out the second half, they made some adjustments because, somebody had to say, guys, why don't we just lean on them a little bit? But kudos to that Michigan defense is that whenever they tried, there was really no substantial gains doing that either.
Talking to Leroy Hoard right now. So I think this game, just from my easy, football analysis kind of eye looking at this, just doing the bare basics, it comes down to Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Because we know how great Michael Penix Jr. is playing, and I know how great the Michigan defense has been playing. But if you could eat up clock and chew clock and just run the ball with Corum and Edwards and go on long drives and score touchdowns, that's how I think Michigan ends up winning this game on Monday night. Yourself?
I wouldn't be too surprised if this looked like the Penn State game, right? And you're going to have a national championship. Your quarterback's going to throw 8 passes, and everybody's going to go, what a phenomenal game plan, right? That being said, I look at the same 2 guys that you do for different reasons. Because if they're getting off, then McCarthy's going to get off, right? And now you got a 2-way go.
And they used Corum in the passing game, too, to get that touchdown, too. That was different.
You give any offensive unit a 2-way go, it's going to be a long day for you defensively. That being said, I'm still going to look at what Penix does, how he throws the ball. Holy smokes, he can throw it. And they got some talent outside. So are you going to, in those pivotal moments, be able to get pressure to him before he can get the ball down the field? I've seen it, but Milroe is a different animal than Penix, right? So that's kind of he exudes cool during a football game. And so from that standpoint, he's not going to panic like Milroe did.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Leroy Hoard, 1, no confidence in the world. 10, all the confidence in the world. I think this is going to be a great game, but where's your confidence at that Michigan winds up on the victorious side Monday evening?
I'm going to go 7. Because I just think the way they have been running the football and how they've played with that defensive front, and the way they've gotten after it defensively, I just don't know if anybody could beat them right now.
Is this it for Harbaugh? I feel as if he's taken an NFL job just as long as it gets offered to him.
Man, I said earlier in the year that he was going to be the coach of the Chargers before they fired their last coach. It just seems to fit. I wouldn't be surprised. You know who else it fits? I hate to say it, but Bill Belichick.
Absolutely.
A quarterback with that defense, right? Now, I don't know if he's going to bring the crew with him because the crew was getting him killed, right? So I hope he doesn't leave for this reason. You've been through everything, man. You're coming out of the other side of it, right? Like, don't do it, Pete Carroll. Right? Pete Carroll, Heisman Trophy winner, loses Heisman. School gets put on, sanctions, and you're coaching for $7 million in Seattle. Right? I don't want it to be that because Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan has a different feel than Pete Carroll leaving USC.
But I kind of understand if he leaves because the NCAA is so petty. It's like, why do you want to put up with all this nonsense?
And I get that too. I get that too. But I just think sometimes, like, opportunities aren't always better. Like what he's built there. And what my thing is what Jim Harbaugh has been through with the criticism and all the stuff surrounding Michigan. And now you come out of the other side of it, right? That's perseverance, right? How he's handled all these situations and still been able to come out the other side of it. Now that you do, you don't leave. Now, granted, his attitude about it might be different than mine. And I wouldn't be mad at whatever he chooses because God knows the way college football is now, like it's the Wild Wild West.
And it's easier to be a pro coach now, no doubt about it.
Right. So I think, look, he took San Francisco to a Super Bowl, and now he maybe feels or sees an opportunity where I like what they have. I think I have a chance to go back again. But it's up to him. I wouldn't be mad either way. If you bring Michigan a national championship and you decide to leave, mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
Plus,
absolutely.
They might already have their new coach on staff.
Yeah, Sharon Moore should get that job.
As long as he don't cry.
Yeah. Well, you had an issue with the crying? I like the crying. Why can't he show a little emotion? Come on. I thought it was good.
Wait, let me tell you why. I spent my whole life looking forward for the opportunity to play in the NFL. When I get to the NFL, I'm not crying. I worked for this my whole life. I expected to be here. So what are you crying about?
Yeah, well, that's why it took you till your later years in life to be a lovable teddy bear. Back then, you were probably a rough, just mean person. Now you're a lovable, nice guy. I come into town in Miami. You get out of your palatial estate. You come to the studio, and you're a nice, genuine, happy guy now. It's because you probably learned how to cry through life.
I've always been a happy guy. I've always been happy. There's one thing. Every person, if you ask them this, what could you say about Leroy? Man, that dude could talk.
That's for sure.
Never changed. Never changed. It hasn't changed.
All righty, last thing I'll ask you. I'll end you with a two-part question, Leroy Hoard. How far are you willing to go with Cleveland? How far of a run can they get on this year? And then the Dolphins, where's your panic level at with Miami right now after some of the defensive injuries and now having a big game up against Buffalo?
My panic level with the Dolphins is at a 6, but not because of the defensive woes. I worry that the game plan changes too much when the wrong guys get hurt, and then you end up sitting back and getting picked apart. That's what I'm worried about the defense. But my panic level is higher about the offense because there's certain teams that play that defense that clutter up the middle of the field, right? And it takes a while for Mike McDaniel to make some adjustments, and Tua's pounding that ball in the middle of the field with all the guys in there. So that's the thing that worries me about the Dolphins. Whether they have the ability, sure. Are they going to be hurting a little bit defensively? Absolutely. They basically lost 2 Pro Bowl rush ends in Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. So how are they going to go about that? I don't know. They do have some guys that can come in and play, but it's the overall scheme of how they're going to put this together. And my thing is, we got to be all out. So just go for it. Don't sit back and let it, because if you sit back, every time they sat back, they've gotten picked apart. So hopefully they understand that. As far as Cleveland, man, it's hard. It's hard dealing with that defense. And I don't know what Joe Flacco is on. He's on some get right. That dude has been throwing the ball.
Elite.
Unbelievable. He's going to get a week break, so this is going to be his bye week. And it would be pretty amazing if he were able to go to Baltimore and win.
That would be something.
Right? Oh, that would be something special. But I think the thing that'll kill Cleveland is Joe Flacco throws the ball to the other team. He'll throw for 350. I hope it's never in a moment where it's costly. In fairness to him, whenever the game has been on the line, he hasn't done that. So I think if my confidence level right now would be higher with the Browns, because they seem pretty well put as far as their defense, and they're playing at a high level, and you can win games like that versus Miami with their woes on defense and not really knowing what adjustments they're going to have to the same type of defense that gives them problems. I'm a little more worried about that. But if they get hot, both teams could go pretty far.
Leroy Hoard, always great to catch up with you, my friend. Good luck to Michigan on Monday night. Obviously, you know who I'll be rooting for. And keep on kicking ass on 560 WQAM. Thank you.
Hey, Zach, thanks for the video. The video. Usually we're on the phone. Now, welcome to the new wave.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I'm not going to say anything right there because I've been pushing for video for years. And finally the boss has said, hey, Zach, we should get you on video some more.
Yeah, they suggest they act like it's new.
Absolutely.